Good morning and welcome once again to Now Streaming. I'm your uncle, Somtochikul Okizu, and today we turn our focus to a painful yet important conversation: the persecutions of Christians in Nigeria. For many of us, it's not just news, it's a lived reality. From the Middle Belt to the far north, believers continue to face attacks, adoptions, and discrimination simply because they bear the name of Christ. According to the 2024 Open Doors World Watch List, Nigeria remains one of the most dangerous places on earth to be a Christian. Over 3,100 Christians have been killed and 2,830 kidnapped just last year alone, more than any other country in the world. Communities in states like Benue, Plateau, and Kaduna and Borno have become recurring targets of violent assault. Since 2009, when Boko Haram began its reign of terror, more than 52,000 Christians have reportedly lost their lives to extremist violence. Thousands of churches, schools, and Christian villages has been burnt to ashes, their members displaced to forced to live as refugees in their own countries. Even more troubling is the rise of targeted kidnappings of clergies, priests, and pastors, also church workers, that are being held in ransom or killed in cold blood. These attacks are not isolated incidents. They form a pattern that points to deep-rooted religious intolerance, weak governance, and in some cases, alarming silence from authorities. Today on Now Streaming, we ask, what fuels this persecution? How should the church in Nigeria respond? And how can we, as believers, uphold faith in times of such fear? So please stay tuned, because this isn't just about tragedy. It's about resilience, hope, and courage to still stand for Christ, even when the world turns hostile. With me in the studio is my co-anchor, Boluwatife Adeboyega. Bolu, good morning. It's wonderful to have you being on set with me this morning. And with us also in the studio is Dean Reverend Uzumba Nicodemus. He is the Director, Education, Youth and Women, Christian Association of Nigeria. Thank you for being with us this morning, Reverend.
Very much. It's my pleasure.
Good morning, Mr. Uzumba.
Thank you. And also joining us virtually are the Venerable Dr. Hassan John. He is the True African Director, Humanitarian Aid Trust. Thank you, Venerable Hassan, for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And also, it's the Reverend Ezekiel Dachomo, who is the Prayer Unit Coordinator for Cooking. Thank you, my guest, for being with us this morning. We hope to have a fruitful conversation and probably get to the roots of why Christians are being persecuted in Nigeria. Please take a quick look at some of the videos we have for you this morning.
Militant Fulani herdsmen are terrorists destroying society. They steal and vandalize, they kill and boast about it. They kidnap and rape, and they enjoy total impunity from the elected authorities. None of them have been arrested and brought to justice. This is supported by the corrupt system in which we operate and the abject poverty among us, which allow the criminal to easily attract more recruits and prey on more victims. Why is this happening? Is it really a religious war? Like in the past, many jihadists are motivated less by religion than by spoils of war and use their religion to impose themselves. In my diocese, the spoils consist mainly of fertile, well-tended land organized around my parishes or so. The jihadists come and adopt and kill the priests, leaving thousands without support and basic human services. And of course, when they disperse the people, the inhabitants, or the citizens, or the people of the lands, they take over. And any attempt to go back and take care of your farms, surely you get killed. The Makurdi Diocese in Benue State has been the epicenter of the invasion by these herders, who are more like hired guns of cattle oligarchies, who manipulate religion to rally the herders to eliminate the Christian population and cleanse the land in the name of Islam. This objective is behind the relentless attacks against Benue's villages. When we call for help to the police and the army, they do not come. At the end of 2024, several villages were warned by the attackers of the upcoming violence, and the leaders called the police for defense ahead of time, but they did not come, and the Christian massacres, almost customary, took place, killing hundreds in Plateau and Benue, with the worst massacre claiming 47 people. The militant also burned down the 8 Catholic churches of St. Mary's Parish in the Diocese of Boko, which in Benue State, as well as the parish house, clinics, schools, and other houses.
In Borno State, my state, recently, over 53 people, all Muslims, were killed.
A few other senators believe the content and intent of Cruz's statement is an attempt by external forces to further stoke religious hatred and divide the country. Senator Jimo Ibrahim, who holds a doctorate in warfare studies, viewed the campaign as terrorist tactics and advised that Nigeria should approach it more discreetly.
We must come to terms to understand the strategy of the terrorists and their praxis. And I think, Mr. Senate President, there might be need for us to have a closed session because it's a security matter.
President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, called for serious engagement with the U.S. Congress to correct the misconception, stressing that the insecurity in Nigeria has no religious inclination.
So for me, engagement will be the best. When we go into executive session, we can decide to set up a small ad hoc committee to go to United States or America and engage our colleague parliamentarians there.
The matter was subsequently stepped down till Tuesday, when Senate hopes to come up with comprehensive response to what it considers as internationally orchestrated threat against Nigeria's security.
We are tired to be outside performing burial every day, and they expect us to silence. Now is an order. Nigerian government came out openly and denied there is no massacre, there is no genocide of Christians in Nigeria, and look at it today. No government. Is there any Muslim here? No. United Nations, I know you're watching me. American Senate, you are watching what I'm doing, I'm saying here. Special advisor to Trump. Now, please tell Trump to save our life in Nigeria. They are killing Christians in Nigeria, massacre Christians. If they say they kill Muslims, Muslims are being killed. By who? By Muslims.
Welcome back, viewers. As we just watched, it's really a sad incident going on right now in our nations, from the declaration of the US president saying the Christians in Nigeria had been persecuted, to the reply of our Nigerian Senate saying it is not true, that what President Trump has said, it's said to be incorrect. And also we watched a video of the mass burial in just a few months back, still in the same year, 2025, and it's sad to see that because you profess the name of Christ, then you are a threat to our neighbors around. And I would want to direct these questions to Venerable Hassan John. It's been said that you've happened to travel around Nigerians and document a whole lot of persecutions for Christians, concerning Christians in our nation, Nigeria. So I just want to ask, what would you say it's the rise of persecutions for Christians in Nigeria in our current dispensation compared to 10 years ago, Dr. Hassan?
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and it's it's very, very apt that we need to clarify a lot of misconceptions currently going on now, simply because, Nigeria right from the beginning, let me even quickly put it in context. Nigeria right from the beginning, from its foundation, has been set up in a deep crisis. From 1960, for instance, we got independence. By 1963, that kind of arrangement for the independence of Nigeria collapsed. And history has it, you can just Google it online, that by 1960, between 1963 and 1966, things got so bad that there was a military coup by Nzeogbu Kaduna to intervene, and then we went into a civil war. But that civil war was fought on the divide of the Muslim North and the Christian South. These are facts on the ground. And have we recovered from that till today? I don't think so. So the persecution have continued in different levels. Again, you can check what different times, different years, just within the military dictatorship of 1967, let's say, all the way perhaps to 1999, when we started this democracy. But the nation never healed. So my observation, and more so that I've lived my life in the north, from Sokoto to Kano to Kaduna and to Jos, the subtle discrimination against Christians is all over the place. And again, if you go online and you do your little research, history shows that there is hardly any time or any year that minorities in the north or Christians have not cried out about this discrimination, either in employment, in every areas. So these discriminations have been there. But because Boko Haram came effectively, let's say, from the violence, of course, started in 1990, well, let's say effectively in 2000, when the Sharia saga engulfed the entire North with the establishment of Sharia law in every state. But the violence from Kaduna spread out, and then Boko Haram came into the scene by 2000, effectively 2009, and the whole thing got weaponized. So depending on what level you are looking at, the persecution has been subtle, then it grew very violent. And let me remind our viewers that the very first video that was posted by Boko Haram in 2010 was calling for the massacre of Christians in Plateau State. The video is there. Anybody that cares to check or follows what Abubakar Shekau said, and subsequent videos, of course, that are followed. And the mobilization, of course, to attack Christians. So I think it's always been there.
Thank you for that clarity. But just a quick follow-up questions to you, sir. So with the background story you've given concerning the persecutions of Christians, it's been said that it's been there from our independence. So do you think, from your own perspective, the persecution of Christians, could it just be an ethnic clash from your perspective, or is it truly about religion? Or are there deeper political and economic motives behind this?
Thank you for that question. Let me say that the Nigerian government is very, very predictable. And their predictability is that anytime you raise the issue of Christian persecution or attacks on Christian minority groups, the card they always play is to deflect, deny, and defend their position. It has always happened. It started at the tail end of Goodluck Jonathan's administration. Throughout Buhari's administration, that's what he did: deny, defend, and deflect. And then now we're seeing it with Tinubu's administration as well. So the thing is this: when they try to create confusion, when you look at the killings in the Middle Belt region of Nigeria, suddenly, rather than focusing and finding out what exactly the problems are, it is now confused in the general attacks that are happening everywhere in Nigeria. So the attacks that are going on in Northwest, for instance, whether Zamfara, Katsina, parts of Kano, and all those areas in Sokoto, it is a completely different thing from what is happening what has been happening in the last 15 years in central Nigeria, which is also completely attached and streamlined to what has been happening by Boko Haram in northeastern Nigeria. But the government tries to deflect that one and bring in that confusion. Is it religious? Of course it's been religious. Because Okay, let me give you a quick example. So Christians have been attacked and destroyed. We forget that the Buhari, for instance, gave an award to an imam in Plateau State who saved 200 Christians from being massacred when over 400 were massacred. And these Muslims who live in the same community with the Christians, nothing happened to them. And this imam bravely came out to defend and save Christians. And they said, no, Christians are not being targeted. Well, how many of those Muslim communities have been destroyed? In fact, just early this year, I would say in May or April, and the same thing happened in Hurti, that is in Bokos, when dozens of Christians were saved by another Muslim, an elderly Fulani who saved Christian women from being killed. Because there's a strategic targeting. And of course, we also forget that on the social media, the interesting thing is the attackers are brazen enough to put all their attacking on social media. When they attack a church, kill choir members, destroy churches, they post it on social media. So we're not saying anything that is not facts. We're not saying anything. See, this is not emotion. We're just simply saying, put the facts on the table and let's argue it out. If the government is claiming that it is not genocidal and it is not religious, then they should put their facts on the table. So it's as simple as that. We're not being emotional, jumping here and there and trying to be politically correct simply because the US and Canada have raised issues and therefore the Nigerian government went into a panic mode and they've now are playing the card predictably to deny, to defend, and to deflect the issues and trying to confuse everything. No, we are very clear-minded on this. And there are facts on the ground that we can present. Actually, in the Middle Belt region of Nigeria, there's hardly any village that has been attacked, that there are no documents, there are no facts. Every year from 2014 till today, about 5,000 to 7,000 people are killed every day in this region. The facts are there again. There is hardly any village, let me even be specific in Plateau State, that they will not give you the names of every woman, child, their age, when they were killed, and how they were killed, and who the perpetrators were. So we're talking about facts and documents, not politics in the National Assembly.
Thank you so much, sir. Viewers, please remember you can call in with the number showing on your screen or send in your comment via our social media platform. The Reverend Ezekiel Dochomo, who is the prayer unit coordinator for cooking, would not be able to join us this morning due to the fact that there was an attack that went on in just yesterday in the area of Barikin Ladi, and so he's en route to that place to see what exactly is happening still on the persecutions of Christians that we are talking about. This incident took place last night, and when we get further details concerning it, we would let you know. I'm over to you, Michael Uncle.
Thank you very much. When we listen to things like this, we begin to wonder if what we've been promised as one of the duties and obligations of the government, which is to protect its citizens, if they're actually living up to it. And I will come to Dean Ozumba. And, when we look at the demography of the places where these attacks have been carried out, one might be tempted to say that these marauders, these assailants who are masquerading as probably headers and all of those things that are coming in, at first probably they will come in a friendly mode and wanting to settle down and all of these things. And you would imagine from some of the records that we have, some of these attacks have been going on for over 100 years. What kind of pattern do you think that these people use to approach the community to carry out these attacks? Because oftentimes, many of these persons that are said to be attacking these villages are even residents in these places.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here this morning. Before I start, I want to appreciate the earlier speaker, Venerable Hassan. I want to thank you very much for laying a very good foundation for this conversation, and you have been able to bring out some facts that are on the table that anybody can go and verify. Now, we have to be very careful to understand some things here. When you don't put things rightly in their own perspective, there is a twist of nomenclature in this
Twist of narrative.
Yes, because what they are trying to do is to remove the name genocide. That's one of the words that is so offensive to the government. Tactically. They don't want the name genocide. They want it to be named killings. And the killings they want it, in quotes, to be mentioned that it's both Christians and Muslims.
Sort of insecurity.
Yes. But as far as this thing is concerned, we all understand what a genocide is all about. Mm-hmm. Because a genocide is a deliberate and systematic destruction of national, ethnic, racial, or a religious group. It's an act intended to destroy a particular group of people, either in a whole or in parts. Now, in Nigeria, like our previous speaker have said, these things have lived with us for some time, since the time of independence. Christians have been massacred in this country. And if you look at the way the killings are going, you will understand that this is not just that a fight between just few people just having an argument and it ended up into fight. No. It was systematically calculated. It was planned. And if you look at the way the killings are carried out, you understand that it is not just something that people who have not been trained to do this act. They must be people who were properly trained, equipped with the weapons, and the weapons that they are using are not just ordinary weapons. To some extent, even our military don't have some of the weapons they are using. Where are they getting these weapons? Who are the funders of these people? So, but again, I want to state another thing again. I want us to understand the North, the 19 northern states, and the FCT. We have the Northwest, Northeast, North South, North Central. Yeah. All of these parts have their way of levels of attack, of killings, of genocide. Let's take, for instance, in the Northeast, there we have the Boko Haram. In the North Central, we have the bandits and the herdsmen. In the Northwest, we have also the herdsmen, kidnappers, and bandits. Those are all same people, but they are given different names. You understand? But if you look at what was the main aim of Boko Haram in the first place, they came out publicly and stated, just like my brother Hassan have said, at the very beginning, Boko Haram was established to eliminate Christians in Nigeria. If Boko Haram mission had succeeded, there wouldn't be any Christian today on earth in Nigeria. But God, by his own infinite mercy, intervened, and today, this thing has now turned to become everybody's problem. That was where they started crying out. 2, when you talk about the middle belt, the North Central, when the herdsmen started killing villages, people in their villages, what are they doing? They take over their ancestral lands, chase them away from their farms, deny them opportunity, rape their women, kill a mother with a pregnancy, open her womb, and kill the baby even right there. Burning people alive. In the Northwest, we have hundreds of Christians who are Northerners. They are either Hausa, or they are Kanuri, or they are in the Northeast, we have the Kanuris also, they are Christians. We also have the Fulani that are Christians, hundreds of them. But because of their faith in Christ, they have also been killed. So it's not something that we are starting today. But when we talk about government, one thing I want the government to understand is that government is not about a person. Government is a system that is continuing. And it has to go from one person. You can be today, PDP, APC, all we know is the government. So every government that we've had over the years until now, because even the present government in 2025, we've had several killings in Nigeria, in Plateau State. Just now we are told that our father who was supposed to join us this morning is on his way going to Barikin
Yeah.
That's a daily reoccurrence of things. And it's not one person they are killing. Let's see later how many number of people have been killed in Plateau today.
All right, thank you so much for that, and I have a follow-up question for you, but I think Bolusti has some reservations.
And yes, sir, looking at this form of attack, this systematic attack of, wiping off Christians, regardless of their ethnic or tribal affiliation, because you say that there are Fulanis who are Christians and who are also being killed. And you made mention of something that caught my attention about their funding, given the fact that some of the equipment, the machineries that they use, that they are not ordinary, that they are, they are very sophisticated. Do you think, are you of the opinion that some of these persons are getting funding from from external forces, or probably even from within the country, itself? That's one. Then, just to add to that, we have different form of jihad, and we have the political jihad, and we have the kind of jihad that the Boko Haram and all these armed banditry are doing. With what they are doing now, how much longer do you think it will take before we see a political jihad in the northern Nigeria?
Thank you very much. You see, politicians are very funny. You remember in 2011, during the elections of the former president, late now, before they took over the government, they have made some statements. There will be people that will be taken as
baboons.
Baboons
will
flow in blood. These are people who made that statement, and they are still walking on the street free. Nobody ever questioned them. Of recent, the former Kaduna State governor came out on a live TV program and was accusing the NSA of funding the bandits, and that's why there is peace in Kaduna State. And one of the former vice president aspirant came up again and counter what the former governor said, and was accusing him, also on the same media, accusing him that he has something to answer. Because if we're talking about banditry and terrorism, he said the man in question has something to answer. So the people we see in the bush are not the people. There are syndicates of these people who are living with us in the town, and they are the ones funding them to carry out this perpetration of this evil to our people. And we also know that there are international funders also who may have come disguisedly, either as NGOs or foundations or whatsoever. We've seen cases of such. So we know that they are technique, and the money they are getting in ransom payment, in kidnapping, is also another way of funding this kind of terrorism. So that's why it's becoming. One of them said sometime, he said, terrorism is a big business in Nigeria. Kidnapping, sorry. Because the more they get more ransom, the more they become more rich. But they don't have the means to spend the money. How are they spending the money? Those in the cities are the ones spending the money.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This is really, there's so much to unpack. Yeah, but I want to quickly come to you, Venerable Hassan. Considering your wide knowledge and documentaries in these killings and genocides of Christians in Nigeria, would you say that the church have spoken loud enough concerning this incident, or are we quiet because of the political backlash that might come from it?
Thank you for that question. Actually, I'll answer this question, but let me add a little to what my colleague said. Because the elephant in the room and the major problem here, which of course you hear even some politicians say who are the funders and where are these people getting their funding from. The fact of the matter is we know who the funders are. We know from government statements and people that have spoken, those that the government itself is complicit. The government has case to answer with all the killings that are going on because, look, let me say that let's change the narrative. The truth of the matter is not whether or not genocide is going on in Nigeria. It is going on. The reaction of the government is a proof of the fact that the genocide is going on, and therefore they went into panic. But let me come back to your question, because the issue of funding is really this, that because there are so many people that are benefiting from this, and they have made this their way of getting rich in every way, the fear that the United States government will put Nigeria on the list of countries of particular concern also means that it is going to impact on them, not necessarily on the country, because what they want us to believe is that, oh, it's going to be bad for Nigeria. No, it's going to be bad mostly for their assets that they have abroad, for their investments that they are hiding abroad, and everything, because particularly, look, the way they make this thing sound is as if the United States Senate or the Canadian National Assembly doesn't know what it's doing. It is not an issue of saying they want to raise this case about Nigeria simply because somebody has called them to say genocide is happening in Nigeria. No, this is done by research, hundreds of documents and collation of things that have made them come to the conclusion and put that bill before their assembly. I remember that there they have intelligence experts, security experts, seasoned politicians to have even come to this conclusion. So we're not talking about whether or not there's genocide. There is genocide. The problem here is the Nigerian government wants to hoodwink everybody, and they insult the collective intelligence of the people in the Middle Belt by refusing to acknowledge this. And instead of acknowledging the fact that there is genocide, the House not setting up or calling for an investigation on what is happening and why it is happening, they are setting up a committee to answer the American Senate. It is, I mean, what on earth are they thinking? Something is happening. How many senators ever visited Plateau State? How many of them ever went to those villages to find out from these communities of all the killings, apart from the predictable narrative of paying courtesy call to the government house and then sending out media statements to say, we are so sorry about what has happened. The perpetrators will not go unpunished, and we'll make sure this thing has never happened again. Check the newspapers. That's what they have said in more than 10 years, and nothing has happened. So I think the question here is, there is a deeper, sinister problem facing Nigeria, which we don't seem to be paying attention to simply because the Nigerian government is trying to push us towards just talking and doing nothing while they do what they want to do. They want to send a delegation to the US. Fine, let them send a delegation. You see, the good thing about this era now is the villagers don't need to go to the US. They have the power of the social media to tell their stories and say this is what has happened. So they can charter air flights, they can have a committee, they can spend money and go and meet the Senate. But the rural villages in Plateau and Benue and Taraba and everywhere will use what they have at their disposal. But the point I'm trying to make is this, that if they do not feel that the thousands of people that are killed every year in the Middle Belt region of Nigeria, and they sweep everything on the carpet and make it sound that it is nothing. No, it's not genocide, it's just killings. And killing of 6,000 or 5,000 or 7,000 is irrelevant. So they want to protect their own interest by trying to change the narrative and call it not a genocide. And how many of them that are speaking, and the so-called Christians that are saying that, oh, everybody is killed, how many of them ever visited those villages? How many of them sat with widows and discussed with them? There is hardly any village in Plateau or Benue State that does not have a mass grave. The statistics are there. It is something that I would have expected the Senate to say, well, if this is what the world is saying, why don't we call the service chiefs? Let's not bring in all the information and intelligence and find out exactly what is going on. But they are not interested because the people don't really matter. Killing of Christians is not a problem to the government. What they are interested in protecting the cabal. So this is where I'm going to end this thing, is to say there is a cabal that is perpetrating this, that is funding this, that is protecting the perpetrators. So at first, even when the Nigerian government, I think it was in 2022, November or thereabout, that they decided to call the so-called bandits terrorists. They've not been addressed or engaged by the army as terrorists. They've been engaged as bandits. But even now, they are no longer bandits. They are now friends and relations where local government chairmen go to sit down and have peace negotiations and dealings with people who have killed thousands of other people and blood in their hands. Are we really sensible in this country? So, you see, the problem here is, let me raise the alarm. If many people are refusing to raise this alarm, let me raise this alarm. That the problem is not whether the Americans or the Canadians are saying it is genocide. We have passed that long ago. For the people in Middle Belt, that is no longer an issue. It's already been established. The documents are there. So that's not where the problem is. The problem is we should be asking ourselves, who are those protecting those bandits? Because for most of the people now that are saying, let's not call this genocide, we need to look at them very critically. Look at everyone that is saying that this shouldn't be a genocide. Look at their backgrounds. Who are they? Where are they coming from? Or why are they saying that? Are they part of the cabal? Are they part of those that are complicit? Those are the things we need to know. But finally, if this continues, what we should be very clear about is we should be asking the Nigerian government, is Nigeria already becoming a failed state? Now, this is where the problem is. Whether we are genocide or whatever it is, that's not even the issue. The issue is we should ask ourselves, do we have a country? If Nigeria is becoming a failed state, then we should sit down and honestly discuss these issues and see how do we solve this problem. Because whether the Senate decides to put Nigeria on that list or not does not remove the problems that everyday people are killed. Dachomo is not here because people have been killed. So that's not even the problem. So I think that the Nigerian Senate and the Nigerian government should bring everybody on the table and ask the questions why the killings are going on. There is no sensible civilized country that you kill thousands of people every day and no military officer is sacked. Nobody is taken to court. Nobody is court-martialed. No, we have problems in our hands. So I think rather than allowing the government to deflect this matter and make us make too much noise on the media, we should be asking them questions. They know who the sponsors are. They should bring them out. I've heard even on national TV, somebody once claiming that, oh, they know who this is. If they push them forward, they will give out the names. Well, why are you not giving out the names? Why are you keeping them? Because they are protecting themselves. There are associations and organizations that we know in northern Nigeria that have complete sympathy for the attackers. They will rather keep them, they will rather perpetrate them for their own political gains. And like your uncle asked, is this a political jihad? We've been in political jihad right from day one. Look, in Nigeria, you cannot separate economic and political jihad when it comes to Islam. Christians have a way of separating state and religion. Islam does not have that. So let's not even begin to go into all those nomenclatures. It doesn't even happen. It is one and the same thing. So let's ask ourselves the questions. Let's not be pushed by whether it is what the narratives are. I think we are fighting an existential problem here. Will we have Nigeria in another 5 or 10 years? That's where the question is, if this continues. And so we should ask the Senate to bring in and set up independent, there are so many NGOs and humanitarian and human rights groups that they can come together and really go and dig down and go find out the facts. Like I said, in Plateau and Benue and all of these states, the information is there. There's hardly any village you go to today and they will not give you the names of everybody that was killed. There's no place you go and they will not show you where the mass graves are. The coordinates are there. Just Google map them and you'll see them. So we're not here trying to whip up sentiments and trying to bring, because the way they try to intimidate you is they say you are trying to create enmity between Christians and Muslims. Brother, we've been in this many years ago. The people in Middle Belt region of Nigeria are not fooled by all this. Let's also remember that there is hardly any village in Plateau, let me even be specific with Plateau and of course Benue and other states. There is hardly any village that you do not have graduates other universities, or even though they're in their farms or tertiary institutions. So we are very intelligent, we are educated, and we know clearly what we're doing. So the issue of trying to just sweep everything out and make it look like people are stupid or they don't know what they're doing is, I think we have left that long ago.
Thank you.
We are so desperate in Nigeria. And so what we want now is to ask people to ask and raise the hard questions and begin to point where the problems are and go ahead and solve them, so that they are not trying to distract us by saying, oh, there are foreign agencies. No, it's not an issue of foreign agencies. If they are claiming that there are foreign agencies trying to destabilize Nigeria, but they are the same people going on their knees begging the foreign agencies for money to build Nigeria, it's a contradiction. Actually, it's very hypocritical. So let's face the facts of the matter. Let's solve this problem.
Thank you so much, Venerable Hassan. Thank you for the clarity. Let me come to the Reverend with us this morning. Reverend, usually I am usually a very jovial person. I smile most often while on set. But this morning, it's I don't think there is anything to be smiling about. And I would want to direct this question to you, because personally, I have an issue with our Christian Association of Nigeria, our CAN, because I strongly believe we are not doing enough. And I want to ask, for the sake of clarity and for the sake of our viewers, what exactly can you say that CAN is doing? Because when we talk about CAN, we are not referring to a denomination. CAN consists of Catholics, CAN consists of the Christian Council of Nigeria, CAN consists of the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, consists of anybody that names the name of Christ. So far you're a Christian, you fall under the body of CAN. Since the inception of CAN, we've only had 4 Christians that ruled Nigeria as head of states. The person of Agoyin Rossi, Yakubu Gowon, Olusegun Obasanjo, and Goodluck Jonathan. Right now, in the government, we have a Muslim ticket in a country that is said to be both Christians and Muslims. And just as Venerable Hassan has earlier clarified, the Muslims do not separate politics from religion. They play the two together. And still yet, we see that CAN, it's somewhat silent about a whole lot of things. And right now we are heading into 2027 presidential election. When do we get to that point where we no longer play politics and religion differently? Because the more we are silent about these things, the more Christians are being massacred. So I ask, what exactly is CAN doing about this? That is one. Secondly, political wise, will CAN get to that point where we say, okay, enough is enough? Probably let's have a Christian rule us for the sake of our own safety. Do we ever get to that point where we as Christians decide to say, okay, this is who we want to give a voice? Because to the Muslims, the others, they have a unified voice, and that is why they always win. There is usually a unified voice. They know who they want. If you are not part of them, you will barely get their votes. Thirdly, we had the incident of Ramadan, where Christians that were in the northern states were closed from school for the period of fasting. CAN only came out to issue a statement that if such thing goes on, that they would not take it. But at the end of the day, CAN did nothing about it. Those Christians that happens to be in the north, probably in Kano and the like, they were closed throughout that period of fasting. What is CAN truly doing about this? Are we really just an association that release letters and no actions towards the persecutions of Christians in Nigeria? Thank you, sir.
Wow, thank you so much. Well, you've really spoken your mind because of you've expressed your emotions out of this because of the situation on ground, and you have spoken like so many Nigerians out there. The questions you are raising here are questions that I believe you've interacted with so many Christians, and they are also raising similar questions. Well, I'm not here, I'm not the spokesperson of CAN to outrightly give you some of the answers that you are requiring from me, because by our constitution in CAN, it's the CAN president that is the sole person given the mandate to communicate decisions regarding CAN. But I will try to give you some of the answers based on my own personal observation. This is me. Now, I'm speaking from what the Bible talks about in 1 John chapter 1 verse 1. Say, what I have seen, what I have heard, and what I have handled, that I speak unto you. So I'm going to be speaking from that framework to be able to say some, but the ones that I cannot be able to openly say it here, I will let you know. Maybe you can invite the president one of these days. He may be able to give you a guide on some of these things. But on the matter of what CAN is doing, the first thing I want us to know is that CAN is an organization that is not governmental, it's not an NGO, it's the communion of believers in Nigeria. And one of the strong objectives of CAN is to provide a prophetic voice for the Christians in Nigeria. Now, when you talk about body of Christ, you're talking about every single Christian in Nigeria. And CAN has classified all Christians in 5 blocks, whereby we have the Catholics, we have the CCN, which are the Anglicans, the Protestants, the Presbyterians, Methodists, and the rest. Then we have the CPFN, PFN. The CPFN, PFN are the Assemblies of God, the Apostolic, those old ones, the Deeper Life, and the rest. They are in the CPFN. The PFM are the New Generational Pentecostal movement. And then we have the OAIC, that's the Organization of Instituted Churches in Africa, which are the simple way to describe them are the white garment Christians. Yeah. So, and then we have the Taken Equa block, which are Christians mostly in the north. Now, over the years, since the inception of CAN, if we had no CAN in Nigeria, I can tell you today, there wouldn't be any Christian having this freedom we have today. CAN has done a lot. On this issue of genocide, CAN have sued the federal government of Nigeria to the International Court of Justice. The case is still there. And it's one of the cases that is being brought out today by Ted Cruz, using it in order to present it to the Senate. CAN has done that. And is pursuing, it has raised lawyers to go to the International Court and fight for the Christians persecuted in Nigeria. CAN have always stood up to be like a voice for Christianity in Nigeria. To oppose, CAN is not out like a political party to oppose any government. No. All we are doing, we are the watchdogs. We watch and we speak on behalf of all Christians in Nigeria. Now, when you talk about CAN not bringing up a unified political candidate, why do we have a Muslim ticket government today and CAN is doing nothing about that? Oh my God. You all know that we are all Nigerians and politics is for everybody. Politics is something that you are the ones to go and look for the votes. CAN cannot come out to say, okay, this is the political party of CAN. No. Because CAN is not a political field. When the 20 last election, that's the one that concerns me, that I was there. In the last election, 2023 election, CAN provided a platform for all the political party aspirants. Come and talk to church leaders. CAN invited all the church leaders in Nigeria, sat down, and they were listening to every politician, the presidential aspirants especially. They came, they made their manifestos, told us what we want to do for Nigerians. And we held them by their words. And with this current president, we are going after the government based on the promises they have made for Nigerians, Christians particularly, to hold them by the word they have spoken to us as Christian leaders in that meeting. The last thing you mentioned of the issue of Ramadan, that we only made a statement, that statement is not only, sir. That statement was not only. I'm the director for education in Cannes, and that was what personally, as the director, I fought through the office of my president. I'm involved in that.
But nothing was done, sir.
No, sir.
The schools were still closed.
Yes, the schools were still closed because you know this is constitutional matter. The governor has a right. There are some rights for some governors, for the governors.
But during the Easter period, when Christians go for their fast,
what stops us in Christian states
to do
same?
So what happens to the right?
Are you suggesting now that if they could have done that in a state where they are predominant, can we also do the same thing in any state where we also know that Christians?
Because I felt
for example,
the message was clear.
For example,
the message during that period was clear.
When you look at Taraba State, Christians are predominant in Taraba State, in Benue State, in Plateau State. So are you saying we should look forward to that day when?
Excuse me. Look, you see, what is the essence of this? Why do we want to react on issues that, because somebody is doing something wrong, we want to go and do the same?
I feel
I'm trying
the
to
silence
yes,
that
we are not
Christians
silent.
No, sir.
Khan was not silent.
No, we are getting to that point where our silence as Christians is actually going to be taken for granted as the day goes by.
No.
I will come back to you, sir. Venerable Hassan.
Please, can I say?
Please, come in, sir. Thank you. Come in, sir.
Yes, I think the point, so that my colleague doesn't miss the point. The fact of the matter is, let's be honest with ourselves as Christians. Khan is on the back foot when it comes to issues of Christians in Nigeria. If we keep politics aside, I have raised a lot of issues, and I have a lot of I love Khan. I have a lot of people in Khan, but I have grudges on where I think when the work needs to be done, when the background work needs to be done. Look, there is anywhere in this world that you can call politicians who go into office and they do your bidding if you have not done your homework to make sure that you have a bargaining tool against anybody that goes into a political office. The Muslims have it, the Christians don't. We think that people, by virtue of the fact that they are James or John or Peter, or they've come to talk to us about their political campaign, they will do it. They will not. I think strategically, Khan must go back to the drawing table. They must analyze the cases and the situations that are happening, and there are many. And our research and statistics must show and point us to a particular area where we are a pressure group. Khan is not the pressure group that it should have been if it does its homework as it should. We have a lot of pseudo Muslim and elders and whatever power groups and I would say political mafia groups in northern Nigeria that the moment they cough, the government jumps. Khan will say everything it wants to say and nobody even bats an eyelid and really nothing happens. Let's be honest. Now, I'm not saying that Khan has not worked. Yes, you have done a lot of work. And like the question was asked, a lot of pastors have raised their voices and they were killed simply because they raised voices against the genocide that is going on. And pastors have refused to commit themselves because of the persecution and because of where they are. Let's not even forget what the problems that Bishop Kuka from Sokoto has suffered simply because he stands there to speak. And I can name so many others in Plateau State, in Benue State. You just played the initial video of the bishop from Benue. I can tell you what happened immediately after that place when they came after him. That same bishop you spoke about. The forces we're dealing with are massive. That's just the point I'm trying to make. And Khan must realize that it is fighting a massive force and it needs to go back to the drawing table. So let's not be political about this. We have work to do. Let's own it. Let's own up to the fact and let's just do the work.
All right, Venerable Hassan, thank you for that. But quickly, let me just, we understand what scripture teaches us as Christians. Love your neighbor, pray for them, and all of that. And I believe it's part of the reasons why because of our silence, it's now looking like we are being taken for granted. For example, the persecution.
Yes, but yes, I agree with you. But you see, the issue here is the Bible never said that we should not seek justice, because justice is the sole responsibility of every church leader to his congregation. We will love them, but we will insist on justice. But this is where also the problem is. So unless we begin to seek justice for everybody that is killed in central Nigeria, for every village that is destroyed, currently we're just talking over the issues where there are terrorists sitting in villages where people have been displaced for more than 7 years. They have no place to put their heads. And when you displace, let me tell you what happens when you displace a village. You rob them of their culture, you rob them of their tradition, you rob them of their heritage and their identity. And nobody is saying anything about this. Oh, a village has been sacked, and so as Christians we say, well, we should forgive and forget. No, the Bible says we must seek justice. So let's seek justice for them. And I think this is also the sole responsibility of CAN, working with lawyers and everywhere all the world to make sure that there is justice, to make sure that these people go back to their lands. If anything else, whatever the Senate is saying, whether it's genocide or not genocide, we should raise up a team of lawyers and raise the funds and make sure that every land that is taken over, either in southern Kaduna or in Plateau or in Benue, these people can go back to their lands. Because what happens, and it is biblical, when Nebuchadnezzar did that with Daniel, when you sack people from their land, it is a deliberate genocidal attempt to wipe the people out of their history, their heritage, their traditions, and their customs. And it is, if it's not genocide, I don't know what that is.
All right,
so what I'm saying is, look, the facts are there. Let's pursue them.
Yeah, Venerable, because of our time, I would want you to take your last words, but also just a follow-up question to what you just said about people being displaced from their lands and all of that, because even biblically, Paul, before he was converted, also persecuted Christians, their arrests and all of that. So at this point, I believe our neighbors, who happens to be the sole reasons why we are being persecuted, I don't know the kind of teachings they get to probably defend themselves, because we get to that point where you can't touch one of them without getting the attention of the other. But in our cases, we are usually very quiet and lives has been lost. Most people feel, okay, these ones are saints, they are martyrs. So, before you give us your last words, and also, what would be your advice to Christians that are in places where they are strongly being persecuted? Will you advocate for self-defense? Will you advocate for the use of probably arms just to defend themselves? Or would you still stick with scriptural teachings that probably say, I don't know if you probably get where, because I personally, I have my stand. I won't sit down and watch you come to attack my family simply because I was instructed to. I would want to defend myself, whichever means possible. Thou shalt not kill, but I will kill. So, scripturally, your advice, what is your advice to Christians that are being persecuted in these places and the government are doing nothing about it? Because the truth remains that in Nigeria, we don't have a law. We don't even have a court. The judiciary that claims to be independent are not even independent. So, what are your advice to people that are in places where their voices can't be heard? And also, give us your last words in that same manner. Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you so much. I think we have already passed this bridge long ago of whether people should defend themselves or shouldn't. The people are defending themselves, especially in the middle belt region of Nigeria. That is why I raised the issue whether we should now pursue the Nigerian state and the government to ask whether or not Nigeria is already a failed state. Because once the army cannot provide security, it is already degenerating into a failed state. But this is the danger. That's why we're raising this issue and we're doing this program this morning. That we must warn the government that people are defending themselves and there are arms in the hands of hundreds of youths all over northern Nigeria. We're not talking about just central Nigeria. We're talking about all over the place. How can they control that unregimented army with AK-47s in their hands? It doesn't look like the Senate is even thinking about this. They're not really... You see, it's only about what they can get and what they're getting and their powers and things like that. So... to your question, the fact is that people must defend themselves. So it's either you now quickly recognize and give state police where each state will now coordinate and provide security for itself, or else the youth will defend themselves. And I promise you, in Nigeria, you will not want to live in the next 10 or 15 years when this happens. But my final word is, again, I'll repeat what I've said. let us take the Nigerian government to task. The issue is not whether it is genocide or not. The issue is why is the government complicit while people are being killed? Why are they protecting and defending the killers and they are calling them bandits, even though they said they are terrorists, and they've not let loose the army? Because using task forces and operation this and operation that is not the problem. We have barracks from Lagos to Abuja to Makurdi to Kaduna to Plateau to... Why are the army still in the barracks and these people are impunity, devastating communities and nobody's asking? Because the government is complicit. It is part of the problem. So let's take them to task on this matter. And I think that is it. Then we should ask the final question, if we're a failed state, how do we solve this problem? Or we can relax and keep talking about it, and sooner or later we'll not have a country.
Thank you so much, Venerable, for that. I'm coming to you, Reverend Ozumba. Please, can you give us your last word?
Yeah, thank you very much. Like I've said, some of the questions that you've raised regarding CAN, it will be very, very important that I let you know that in CAN, what we do is that we don't come out publicly to say this is what we are doing. The facts are there. You can invite the president at any time. He will be here. I'm sure that he will be glad to come here and express some of the things, give you facts and details of some of these things that we're talking about here. But let you know for the fact that the issue before us today is on the issue of genocide in Nigeria, of Christians in Nigeria. This is a fact that can never be disputed. Nobody can dispute the fact that Christians are being persecuted, Christians are being killed, Christians are being chased and hunted like animals, their lands have been taken away, and the church must be united at this time. What seems to be happening today is that most times people bank on social media misinformation more than going to seek the facts on issues. Take for instance, the last time you hear so many cases that have been spread into social media, so many bloggers coming to say so many bad things. It's like it's another way of strategy of trying to put the church against itself, put the Christian community against itself so that they can speak differently. But one fact we must always establish, and I want to establish it again and reiterate it again here, is that Christians are persecuted, Christians are killed, Christians are being hunted, and Christians are denied some privileges. So the question I'm asking here is that, are Christians Nigerians? Do we also have the citizenship rights as others do? If we are also citizens of this country, then it is the duty of the government to protect every citizen of this country, be it a Christian, either from the north, from the south, from wherever. It's the duty of the government to be sure that the lives of Christians and their communities are protected. The last question you raised on the issue of taking arms to kill. You see, Jesus is very clear about that. Yes, I know I don't want us to be emotional sometimes based on things. Jesus is very, very clear in this. Jesus will have taken arms himself to fight those who came to kill him, even on the cross. But what did he do on the cross? He said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. We all know, yes, that's why we are Christians. That's why we are Christians.
Jesus came
we
to
are
die.
called Christians because we are like Christ. So to be a Christian is not an easy thing.
That will be a topic for another day with my guest. That would really be a topic, because I would personally want to get give clarity on that. But please, your last words.
All right, thank you very much. And I just want to share this thought with us, because today our hearts cry for our brothers and sisters who suffer simply because they bear the name of Christ. And the pain of Christian genocide in Nigeria is not just their pain, it is ours too, collectively. And as one body in Christ, we cannot afford to stand silent. And while bloodshed and families are torn apart, let us lift our voices, of course, in prayer. Let us stand in love and take necessary actions wherever such may be needed. And I pray that for those who have lost their loved ones, who have lost their relatives, that the Lord would grant them comfort. And we also want to charge the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, who is the body that has been charged with the responsibility to speak up for Christians, that in the face of this genocide, in the face of this cleansing, that CAN should rise up to the occasion and give necessary loud voices and loud actions that can be visibly seen by all to placate for the souls of those that have gone. We may not be able to bring back the souls that have gone, but there are things that can be done to bring to console and bring solace to those who have lost their loved ones. Thank you very much, Somtochukwu.
It's been a wonderful show. Thank you so much, Bolu, for that last words. Thank you so much, Reverend Odzumba, for your time. And Venerable Hassan, thank you so much for being with us today. We really hope to have you next time and probably to just discuss further and shed more light on the issues that pertain we Christians in Nigeria. And our viewers, we extended a little bit because of the nature of the topic we had to discuss this morning. As we conclude to this conversation on the persecutions of Christians in Nigeria, it's impossible not to feel both the weight of sorrow and the strength of conviction. The facts are heartbreaking. Thousands have been killed, kidnapped, or displaced. But even in this pain, the light of the gospel continues to shine. Churches are rebuilding, faith communities are rising from the ashes, and believers, despite the dangers, are still gathering, praying, and proclaiming the name of Jesus. Yet, let's be honest, prayer alone is not enough. The church must become both a voice and a shield. A voice that calls the nation and the world to acknowledge this ongoing injustice, and a shield that protects the vulnerable through advocacy support system, and a commitment to stand with those who suffer. Government at all levels must also rise beyond rhetoric security agencies, and rhetoric security agencies must act with fairness and urgency. No Nigerians should live in fear because of their faith. If you're listening today and you've lost a loved one to religious violence, or you are living with trauma because of persecution, may you find comfort in the words of Christ. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. The blood of the persecuted does not silence the gospel, it strengthens it. The church has never died in persecution, it has only grown stronger. So as we leave you today, remember this. Our response must be prayer, compassion, and courage with unity, because there is only one body. When one part suffers, all suffers with it. I'm Somtochukwu Okizo, and this has been the Now Streaming Show. Let us not only talk about faith, let us live it, defend it, and shine it brightly in a world that desperately needs hope. Thank you for being with us today. Bye for now.